So the first thing I need for making my summer fortune teller is a square piece of paper. But since my paper is a rectangle, I need to do some folding to give myself a square. I'm going to take that top right corner, folding it down to match the bottom edge of my paper. Once everything is lined up, I'm going to crease that diagonal. And then I've got this extra bit of paper over here. So I'm going to fold that over, again, making sure that the bottom edge lines up. Once my corners are ready to go, then I will crease to create that extra fold. Now this long skinny rectangle is going to be that leftover paper that I need to cut off. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to snip along that folded edge and get rid of that extra paper, which should leave me with a square. So I'm just finishing up cutting off that extra bit of my paper. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside because I don't need it. And then as I unfold my paper, I should see I've got a nice square. Now I've got my one diagonal through my paper already, but I actually need a second diagonal. So I'm going to fold my paper diagonally, lifting the bottom left corner up to meet the top corner at the top, making sure everything is lined up. Once my edges match, I will crease that next diagonal line. And now I should have a paper that looks something like this. It's got two diagonal lines running through the middle. Now I'm going to take that bottom left corner and I'm going to fold it up to meet that point that I have created in the middle. Once I have everything lined up, I will crease that edge. Then I'm going to turn my paper, take the next corner, folding it up to meet that middle point again, lining it up with the triangle that I have to the side. Once everything is lined up, I will go ahead and crease. Turning my paper again, we're going to do the same thing, taking our corner, folding it up to meet the middle, and lining it up with the triangle to the side, creasing once everything is lined up. Now I'm going to do the same with my very last corner, folding it up to meet the middle point, creasing once everything is lined up. Now my paper should look something like this, and we're going to go ahead and flip it over because we're going to start working on the other side. You can still see that middle point, and I'm going to take my top right corner. I'm going to fold it down to touch that middle point again. It's going to get a little harder to fold because my paper is getting thicker the more I fold it, but I'm going to do my best to line it up with the lines along the side and then creasing it. Same thing with my next corner, lifting it up to touch the middle point. I can also use those folds on this side to help me line it up correctly, creasing once everything is lined up. Same thing with my next corner, folding it up to meet the middle point again, lining it up with the other triangles on the side, creasing once everything's lined up. And finally, we're down to my last corner. I'm going to lift that piece up, fold it to touch the middle, lining it up with the sides, creasing once everything is ready. And now I should have a paper that looks something like this. My next step is to take one of those middle lines and I'm going to fold my paper halfway using that fold. And then I'm going to do the same thing the opposite way. So I folded my paper horizontally, then vertically along those lines. And now I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm kind of pinching. See how I'm pinching the sides? Because I'm going to get ready to kind of push these together to pop it open like a Snapdragon. So I'm holding onto the sides, I'm pushing together towards the middle, and now my paper is going to start to take on some three-dimensional form. Now you can see I've got these little pockets on the other side. So as I pinch with one hand, I'm going to flip it over and use my other hand to pull open each of those little pockets. And that is where my fingers are going to go to be able to open up my Snapdragon. Now the next step for this is going to be decorating my fortune teller. So to do that, I'm going to fold it back so that it's all the way open. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to start by decorating the back side. So I can do this with a pencil or a marker, and your designs are totally up to you. You can decide if you want each section to have a unique design, or I'm going to be working with what we call radial symmetry, where my artwork is symmetrical, it matches, and it's coming out of a center point. So I'm using this center where each of those little pocket flaps all come to meet in the corner. That's going to be my central point for my design, and I'm going to make all of my little pockets match with their designs as closely as I can. But again, your design is totally up to you. Now, if you do choose to do radial symmetry like I am doing, there's a couple things I like to think about. One is that it's actually the outside corners of my paper that are going to be coming together once I open it back up. So I like to put a little design in the outside corners that I want to come together to a point. The other thing that I like to think about is when I'm working on that radial design, I can start by either filling out all the design for one square like I did, and then turning my paper to match that design one square at a time. Or what you can actually do is just do one element of your design through each of the 4 squares and work your way around. So you can see here, I'm now doing that central part of the design and working my way up on each of the squares. So I'm doing one design element at a time as opposed to filling out a whole square by itself and then moving on. I do find that when I design radial symmetry images, that doing one little piece at a time and making it match on all 4 of my squares tends to give me a little bit better control. Then you can think about if there's any parts of your artwork that you want to color in. Because mine is black and white, I'm adding a little bit of contrast by adding black. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. I'm just going to show you guys what this looks like. So you can see there is the outside design for my fortune teller or snapdragon. Now I'm going to start working on the inside design. Now what you want to pay attention to is that those opposite triangles are what you're going to see when you open up your snapdragon. So if you want each of your sections to match, I'm going to make my top triangle and my bottom triangle have matching patterns. And then the opposite triangles on the right-hand and left-hand side, those will have their own matching patterns because not all 4 of these triangles will be visible at the same time. So I've decided to go with a checkerboard pattern here with a little heart motif in the middle. And my next step after that is going to be to flip my paper around, and I'm going to do the same design on the opposite side. So again, I'm going to do my hearts at the center and then my checkerboard pattern. I'm going to go ahead and fold that up again to show you what that looks like. So now you can see that one section I have not colored in yet, but the other ones you can see my checkerboard pattern coming together. I'm going to open it back up, and now I'm going to work on my other design. Now, while I am going to come up with a new pattern for this side, I decided to keep that central motif of the hearts. But now I'm actually going to be doing some concentric circle designs, and I'm just filling up all the parts of my paper with different sized circles. Same thing on the other side, doing my little heart motif at the center, and then making that other side match with the concentric circles. Now if I fold it all the way up, you will see as I open up my snapdragon, we've got the one design with the concentric circles and the other design with the checkerboard. Now it's time to make my fortune teller actually tell a fortune. So I'm going to open it back up, lift up one of those flaps, and I'm going to be putting in here a message. So this is going to predict what kind of summer you're going to have. So I'm going to come up with a word that gives you an option for what kind of summer you might have. This one is sweet. I'm adding some little candies to go with that. Then I'm going to come up with another one, outlining that section. And if you pick this one, you're going to have a cool summer. Now to go with that cool theme, I'm going to make my letters look like ice by adding some little lines to show some shine and then a little melting puddle. Going to outline my next section. And if you pick this flap, you're going to have a fun summer. Doing a little cartoon of a clown here. I like to add some images that go with whatever the fortune is. And my last fortune, outlining the sides again so it stands out. This is that you're going to have a very bright summer. Adding a little sun design and some cool shades. Now that I have all my fortunes, I'm ready to fold it back up and play the game with a friend. They can tell me how many turns they want to take, giving me a number. I will open it that many times. They can point to the flap that they want. I will open it and give them their fortune for the summer. This person's going to have a cool summer, and I hope you guys do too.